So you've talked about racism, systemic racism in this instance. You've talked before about racism with respect to the courts, prosecution, sentencing, jury selection. And correct me if I'm wrong. You've argued that there should be more black professionals and I guess jury members in positions of power like this. But isn't it also true, I guess, that not all black people, think monolithically, I guess, as they say, or are in agreement about how racism and white supremacy operates? Is there a danger of just saying, okay, put black people in these positions of power, in the legal profession or any profession or workplace, who might just then uphold or if not double down on the status quo? Aren't we in a worse position if we just say put more black people in those positions and then it's all solved? It's
an excellent question. The first thing I would say is this: any individual white person might make a better decision than any individual black person.
Right.
So I'm not prejudiced to the degree that I think that just because you're white, you're going to make a negative decision against me. But here's what I would say. If somebody were to walk through the door and I don't know anything about them, if one's black and one's white, I'll take the white guy. I'll take the black guy as the decision maker if it's something that affects me or my life. And I'll tell you why. I think he's more likely to be compassionate for me. He's more likely to see me as somebody that's like him or his child. He's more likely to come from a background where he can appreciate my decisions. For 300 years, white decision makers have let us down. We've been overly prosecuted, overly incarcerated. We're underrepresented in legal profession, and pretty well every other profession. We're largely underrepresented.
And there's statistics to back these things up. You're not just
well, no. I mean, I'm not a statistician, but I think that you could ask any professional, and they'll tell you we don't have enough black lawyers, dentists, judges. And so
there are, I think, I don't have them in front of me, but statistics that do back up some of these things in terms
I think so.
Yeah.
But here's one thing that I would point out. For 300 years, I think everybody would agree with me that when black people leave themselves in the hands of white people, white decision makers, doesn't work out, right? So if you look at Africville, and not just black people, look at the indigenous school systems, look at pretty well any decisions that are made by white people historically have been bad for us mostly.
Okay.
So when I say that I want, more black judges, more black jurors, I think that, first of all, we should be represented. The system should appear to be fair. But also, if it's me, I'm very rarely, if ever, persecuted or prosecuted by black people. It's normally white people. And the other thing that I would say is this. In terms of jurors, I talked to a white lawyer the other day who's actually a friend of mine. He should remain nameless right now, but I asked him, you're white, okay? If you had and he's done criminal defense work. If you had a black client, would you want black people on your jury or white? He said, I'd want black people. I would take black jurors every time because he knows, white people know, that black jurors and decision makers are less likely to be harsh on black people than white jurors. And when you go through these juries, it's essentially all white jury after all white jury prosecuting our young people, making decisions with respect to our young people and incarcerating them.
I'll throw you a little curveball. Some people might hear that and say, well, you're saying that black people will give black people a pass, maybe, even if they are guilty.
I'll go further.
What would you say to that argument?
I'll go further than that. I asked that same lawyer, if you had a white client, would you rather an all-white jury or would you rather black people on that jury? He said he'd rather black people on that jury. Okay. I think that white folks are more, in general, they're more likely to be...
assume guilt, maybe?
I would say that they're more likely to be by the book. Okay. They're perceived that way even by white lawyers. So I think that they know if we get people that are from the black community, we're more likely to say, I'm going to question the police authority. I'm going to question the actions of the Crown. I'm going to be more charitable with my interpretation of the actions of the accused. And I think that, obviously there's exceptions to that. The thing that I'll point out about the exceptions, which is another part of your question, what if we get people in these positions that are black, but they're not right for that position, or
well, even if they have good intentions, maybe if the status quo is as you claim it to be, it would be rather intimidating to come in there and say, okay, I'm gonna do things differently than they've always been done, or maybe some folks are eager to want to do things the way they've always been done so that they can advance.
Here's a problem that I've seen. The black people that tend to rise the ranks and become managers of crown attorneys, like higher positions in the crown attorney's office, or the ones that recently have become judges, one in particular, I find that they tend to be people that are not pro-black, because the people that are putting them in these higher positions, the powers that be, they choose black people that aren't actually going to benefit black people.
And so we'll get back to, I guess, my initial question then. So if we just put black people in there, isn't there a danger in them saying, okay, you got what you wanted, stop complaining about the racism?
There's a danger if we keep letting the powers that be pick people that look black but act white against us.
So then what's the solution?
The solution is to have more black people in positions so that eventually it's not all old white guys that are making decisions on who becomes judges, who becomes high-ranking crown attorneys and managerial positions and hiring positions and so forth. I think that it will change over time just by having numbers. And I think that, I hope at least, and I'm fairly confident about this actually, there's less people that are going to hurt us that are black than that are going to help us. So if we put numbers in there, I think we'll get some people that do the right thing. The other thing I'll point out is this. In 2016, when I had my conviction overturned, might have been 2015, at that point there'd never been a Supreme Court justice that was black in Nova Scotia or a Court of Appeal judge that was black in Nova Scotia. Since then, there's been a couple that were appointed, and I called them out extensively. Anytime somebody puts a microphone in front of me, I would point out how few black judges there are. There's been quite a few lately. The courts are getting better at being representative of African Nova Scotians. So much better.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're not optimistic that it's going to be a quick fix solution, I guess.
No, I think that it's already improving. It's already improved pretty drastically in terms of the numbers in the courts, but that's just one part of the problem. I mean, jury selection, jury pools are an issue. I know if you look into the public prosecution service, there tends to be issues there in terms of their hiring practices historically, and I know that they've got some work that they've got to do there. But you know, right across the system, there's systemic discrimination, and there's individual actors who are blatantly racist. I've exposed them for being blatantly racist, and the system not only gives them a pass, it helps them perpetuate systemic discrimination.